Hello and welcome to Focus. My name is Renee Ngamau. Now, this is a number of a mini-series that we're taking out of the Great Talks 2015 that Old Mutual, UAP and Faulu Kenya have hosted this year. So you will see me, yes, in the same outfit 6 times, but hopefully, and of even greater value to you, is that you will meet our guests, each one of them an exceptional human being in his or her own right, and one who I think will probably enrich your entrepreneurial life. The Great Talks 2015, you could catch more about that if you go onto their microsite, greattalks.co.ke. I'm not very sure what is on it, but by the time that I'm done with this interview, you'll have a little link right about here with a little bit more information about how you can find out more about that. So let's get right to it, shall we? I have next to me Vusi Thembekwayo. Now, Vusi is very well known as a #1 world-renowned speaker, and with reason, because he is also a world-class entrepreneur, particularly in the area of financing. And the questions I wanted to put to Vusi are really all about financing. So first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us.
Jambo.
Yay, you've got one Swahili word.
How about it, guys?
Oh no, there's 3, God. We keep talking them up with you, talking them up.
Missouri.
Oh, don't, stop now, stop.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you.
You're all about financing. Now, you've just literally come out of the Great Talks 2015. And you may have noticed that a lot of the questions were from young and budding businesses asking, how do we get the money to get our businesses going? So let's break down this question to a number of sort of underlying issues as I understood them. One is, at what stage in a business should a business owner begin to think about getting external financing?
Right. So I would have to say, first, just important to speak about why financiers finance first, or rather what it is they finance. So financiers finance a track record, and that's the difficulty young businesses have, is without a track record, it's very difficult for a financier to make a decision about not only the opportunity, but the risk that comes with that opportunity as well. To answer your question more directly around at which stage of the business you should be thinking about finance, I think in the early days, to the extent possible, you should rather try and get your suppliers to help you finance your business, either by giving you credit terms and try and get your customers to be part of that by paying you up front. Difficult to do, but it's a part of the discipline. The second thing to think about around the stages of the business is to look at your cash flow cycle and understand when you begin to need money to grow your business. And it's an easy way to think about it. It's like driving a car. When you begin to over-rev it, you've got to change gear. Finance should be a change gear thing. It should be, with the current resources, I'm running as fast as I can, as hard as I can, and I can't stretch it any further because I'm in the red zone. What I need is a new set of resources so I can switch from one gear into another, and I can relax some of my resources a bit but generate higher margins, right? So from an analogy perspective, that's how to think about it. And entrepreneurs, I think, need to be a bit patient and wait until they get to that overheating stage before they start looking for finance.
I love that, that you've said financiers finance records.
Yeah.
Yes, they don't so much finance the idea, which is what most entrepreneurs will go into the bank thinking, or will approach someone thinking, I've got a great idea.
Yeah.
So let's bring it a little bit closer home. Your own story was quite a fascinating one in terms of how you sort of pulled yourself up by your bootstraps. Would that be a correct thing to say?
Yeah.
I'd love for you to retell it again, just for the 3 people who are watching who don't know who you are yet.
So when I started my first business, I had just enough money to cover about 3 months worth of running costs and expenses. And
what was your business? What was the first business you started?
It was a consulting business, which in hindsight was a big mistake. The worst businesses to get into are the kinds where you sell nothing more than knowledge, because you then have to convince people that you know something other people don't know, which is hard to do. But it was a consulting business, and it was difficult. It was very, very difficult in the early days. I had just enough money, as I said, to survive the first 3 months, and after that, the sharks start circling your house, as it were. And specifically, the bank started calling me up, asking for that to which they are rightfully due, and I had some commitments and credit and the rest of it, and I couldn't meet those commitments. So I, to use the polite word, I absconded to my office, And I used the remainder of my reserves to pay for my rental. And I had just enough reserves to pay for 7 months rental. And I paid for 7 months rental, so I was guaranteed tenure in the office. I didn't have anything to eat, I didn't have a place to stay, and I used to live in my car in the basement for 7 months. And it was a really difficult time. It's the hardest thing to wake up every morning working on something that shows zero feedback. It's like flogging a dead horse. And you begin to, in your mind, question what people were saying to you. My mother said to me, you know, get a job. And I understood that, her generation. As I imagine will be the case with many of the people listening to the interview. For her generation, your contribution to society was as a function of the unit cost of your labor. And so you exchanged labor for value. I wanted to exchange value for value. And that's not a paradigm she understood. So she was one of the people who said to me, get a job. My whole family said to me, get a job. I had to make very difficult decisions up front about how I was going to stay committed in the journey. I shared in the talk that I was about a week away from giving up. I was about a week away because it was now 6 months and 3.5 weeks into this money that I had paid for the rental, and I had nothing else left. I was about a week away from giving up, and one day the phone rang. It's how the universe works, right? So the early days for entrepreneurs are a lot like a winter. You just have to sit it out and wait. And it's seasons, just the same way we enjoy summers when times are good and business is good, in the spring when the new idea comes to life. So too, all businesses go through a winter where your strategy is challenged, or you lose market share, or there's a new entrant, or customers go somewhere else. That happens in business, and you have to have the tenacity and I think the unmitigating temerity to think that you're going to make it to the other side, and then to actually wait it out. So don't give up.
Most people want to ask, has it gotten easier now that you've become a multimillionaire?
The answer is yes and no. So easier from the perspective that I work because I like to, not because I have to, and I'm privileged from that perspective. I'm perhaps 1% of the global population. But no, because I continue to take capital risk. And in the businesses where I invest, in the spaces where I take capital risk, there's real embedded risk, and sometimes we lose money. And in losing, nobody gets into business to lose money, right? So in losing money, and for me it's my own personal money, it's a very painful process. That's the first part of the no. The second part of the no is because I now run what is essentially a global business. So we're Pan-African, we've just opened an office in Latin America. Because of that, we have an office in London, obviously. The complexity has quadrupled. I now have to worry about geopolitical issues, country risk, the cost of capital for different parts of the world. I have to worry about the currencies and what's happening in emerging markets right now. We are an emerging markets investment business, and we are not a fund. We don't run as a fund which invests for a period of time. Our strategy is an evergreen fund, which basically means I invest for the period I predetermine, not for the period the people who are giving me the capital predetermine for me to, right? So there's some businesses where we're in for the next 3 years, there are other businesses where we're in for 30 years. And because of those time commitments and time horizons, we have to make decisions about the risks of the areas that we are invested in. And sometimes those are difficult decisions. For our business in Zimbabwe, for instance, we've had to take a long-term view because of the state that the country's in. And sure, there's pressure and pull out, and we could apply the money elsewhere. And the accountants always show you the spreadsheets about if we'd taken this money and left it in a bank account in Mauritius, what would it look like? Yeah, but then we wouldn't change society. I want to put a dent in the world. I want to fundamentally change the structure of this continent. That's what I want to do. And we're not going to do that by leaving money in the bank account to earn some interest rate.
I love that. Sorry, I love that you've spoken about being a global organization, and certainly Pan-African. One of the questions that comes up constantly is whether we should now create a new set of rules for emerging markets, for businesses in emerging markets that are looking to get funding, or whether we should continue to mold those businesses into a Western style business in an environment that is anything but Western. What's your take on it?
You're absolutely on the money. You're 100% of the money. The funding model is wrong. The model is completely broken. It's not built for our markets and our environments. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Africa has what was 54, now with the split of Sudan, now 55 countries. There are over 1,000 different indigenous languages. I beg your pardon, over 1,000 different indigenous tribes, over 3,000 different languages. So it's a big, complex continent. And depending on where you are, you could be in South Africa one day or Nairobi, where there is first world infrastructure, and you only need to take a 2-hour flight, and you are in a completely different part of the world. And so too, that means the risk of operating in those spaces is different. I'm upset because I think African leaders have absconded their responsibility. And I think African industrialists have absconded their responsibility and have not made a case for the rethinking of capital, specifically for high growth businesses operating in Africa. We are not Silicon Valley, so you can't come up with an idea and sell it 18 months later, pre-revenue, pre-profit, pre-cash at an 18 multiple. That doesn't happen here. Africa needs real solutions from real people that are going to impact real lives. And if that is the case, then we need a class of capital that understands not only that capital is about generating a return, but more important, that capital is about creating a better world. And right now, I think there's too much of a skew on the return and not so much on creating a more sustainable society.
Is there room for both? Is there room for both profit and sustainability?
That is the only model that is sustainable in the long term. I don't care who you are, which part of the world you come from, or how well you speak the English language, or how much money you have. When you have a Gini coefficient, the likes of which we are seeing in the emerging markets today, when you have the size of the unemployed growing, Africa's got 3 challenges: inequality, unemployment, and a huge lack of capital. Until you fix those 3 problems, there is no wall high enough that's going to protect you when poor people decide that they've had enough of their resources being taken. It suits all of us to share the wealth of the world, you know. And one of my often says, human beings are funny creatures because we are the only ones that think in a zero-sum game. All other creatures, birds, for instance, don't calculate market share on who occupies how much of the skies. They know that there is enough sky for all of us to fly. And so too is the case with whales and sharks and all the rest of it. We are the only ones who think in a fatalistic sense that says there's only so much and I must grab them as much for myself as possible. Sure, but to what end? And then what?
So you sit as, or you have sat as a dragon.
Right.
And you may sit, we'll find out by the time this goes on, as a shark, so in the sort of dragon dens model. What are the 3 things that you're looking for? So this is a sneak peek and it's a spoiler alert for everyone, so don't watch this part if you don't want to know. What are the 3 things that you're looking for in a pitch?
Clear knowledge of the numbers. Clear knowledge of the numbers. And one of the things I think that entrepreneurs find difficult is entrepreneurs are, by their nature, vision people. So they see the world not as it is, but as it could be. And they create businesses to move the world from one state to a better state. But many entrepreneurs are fairly poor at translating that vision into a set of numbers. So one of the things that I look for, and I'm quite particular about this, is the numbers. If you're pitching me and I ask you, what is your net operating profit less adjusted taxes on the 3rd month of your 4th year, I expect the answer, and I expect it accurate and in the decimals. Because if you don't know it, you're asking me to take capital risk on my money on something you've not spent time truly internalizing and immersing yourself in. So know the numbers. Second, you. Ultimately, it's about investing in the person. And for me, the integrity is important. I want to know that you mean what you say and you say what you mean. I want to know that if you don't know, the answer will honestly be, I don't know, but I will find out, right? And that's not, again, something that we learn from school, something that society teaches us. I think it's something that you are raised with, and it's a set of values that you espouse. If we have a test in the business, and the test is, are we going to sleep at night after we've done business with this person? So I sleep at night. When it's bedtime, I sleep. Because I only do business with people I know will treat my money with the care that I would treat my money. So integrity is very important. And third, I look for someone who has what I call the BOTW, the best opportunity to win. And what that means is you don't have to be the first to do something. You don't even have to be the most innovative doing that thing. But there is something about both you, the set of skills you have, and this business you want to create, and the environment you operate in, that has to give you, and only you, the best opportunity to win in that thing. That third one, by the way, is my single non-negotiable. I do not move if that third one is not in place. If I'm not convinced that the person with whom we're doing business has the best opportunity to win in this thing, we're not doing it.
Vusi Thembekwayo, thank you ever so much for taking time to have a chat with us. And hopefully we'll host you again soon.
Asante.
Right, well, thank you for watching. I'll tell you what, catch us soon, because we've got quite a number of these to go through, and each one of them just adding on to your knowledge, your information, your belief, and hopefully the next actions that you take in your business and beyond. Thanks for watching.